As when you're a sonographer, you're lucky if you even get a job at a nurse, like out of school. And I was like,
I'm gonna head out real quick.
I was like,
hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Frida Diamasi, and here with me is my friend, my sister. Let's have her introduce herself and give us a little peek into her life.
Okay, so hi, my name is Iesha. I am a college student. I go to TW and I'm studying to be a nurse right now, and I'm in my last semester. And as far as my faith, I've always been a Christian. I have been a part of many groups where I have supportive friends like Frida that I've gotten to meet and be a part of their lives and their ministry, such as this. And so I'm just happy to be a blessing to whatever they're called to and share God's voice through my own about whatever it is that they have to ask me. So yeah.
So let's just get into the topic, obeying and hearing the voice of God. And so even with your degree, how were you able to distinguish, or how did you know that this is what God wanted you to do? Because even knowing your story, this wasn't your original major.
Yeah.
And so how was that like?
The entirety of my life had kind of been me in and out of medical care settings. And one thing that was always highlighted to me in those medical care settings was just how loving and welcoming the nurses were to me, and how they were willing to go out of their way to make sure I wasn't just cared for in a medical sense, but in an emotional sense as well, not just even as a child, but as a teenager too, who dealt with some heart issues from time to time. And so that made several impacts on me throughout my time growing up. But my original intent, as you said, was not to be a nurse. Because, you know, I had my heart set on bigger things at first. As a child, I was like, I went straight to wanting to be a doctor. I was like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pediatrician. And then I looked at how long you had to be in school. I was like, psych, just kidding. Because I was like, I'm not going to be in school that long. I can't do it. So I quickly changed my mind. But I was so sure I wanted to work with kids. And after seeing how long you had to go to school, I was kind of discouraged. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I kind of like, you know, the whole ultrasound thing where you do imaging of like babies and stuff. So I went to Oklahoma for like a year to study sonography. That's the fancy name for it. And some stuff happened financially, and I ended up not being able to complete that. And also because it was so expensive to be there, I put my little brother's college first. And I wanted to make sure that he got the chance to pick whatever college he wanted to go to, like I did. And so I was like, you know what? I don't want to end up using all the money and benefits that we had at this college. So I was willing to come home for a variety of reasons, but definitely considering my brother's college and him getting to have financial access and freedom to go to whatever college he wanted to, like I did, was a big deciding factor for me. So yeah, came home, and I was finally thinking about how throughout basically all of high school, people kept telling me, oh, you'd make such a great nurse. You make such a great nurse. And I was like, I don't want to be a nurse. And it was so annoying to me because I was like, why do people keep saying that? Yeah. Like, I never thought about being a nurse. And I just slowly started reflecting on how I started this conversation with about how nurses had made such like an impact on me throughout my whole life. And the more I thought about it and the more I prayed about it and seeked God about it, I was like, I don't know, maybe this is somewhere you're calling me to, and I've just been avoiding it for the sake of people trying to tell me what to do. And so I finally tried seeing myself in that light and seeing how God saw me fitting into that role to be an impact to other people as they were an impact to me. And I just had a fire in my heart ignite for it and a passion ignite for it. And I knew that was what my path was meant to be in terms of nursing. And so I just went for it. And I went for TW because I knew that their program was really good. And so yeah, I had the many obstacles that could have stopped me and proven that what I had chosen was wrong. Not one obstacle arose that stopped me and made me feel like I was going down a wrong path. I had never fought so hard academically for something, growing up being told that I was at an academic disadvantage compared to some other people, trying to be diagnosed with ADHD in elementary school, all these other obstacles, being told I can't read and comprehend properly, all these things. And so this is the first thing in my life I set my mind to being like, no, I'm going to do this no matter how hard it is. And so seeing that I was able to overcome obstacles that I never thought I would be able to educationally was definitely a sign to me that this is a road God designated for me to go down, because there's no way I would have been able to pass all the tests I did, all the classes I did without his hand being on me, because there were some times, man, where it was so close, and it was a close call. But I had so many people encouraging me and telling me to just try again, to just keep going. Even my own sister, my mom, just everyone always encouraging me to keep going. And when I listened to them and not my own voices in my head that wanted to quit, every time God brought me through. And so I was like, there's no way God would have brought me this far if this isn't where he wanted me to be. And so I'm so sure that I am meant to be a nurse, and specifically a women's health nurse, because my passion is for women, and helping in that area, especially in the Black community. So yeah. That's kind of how I knew, because when you're called to something, you know it's your purpose, God will open the doors. He'll make a way every time, and he did for me. Not once did he tell me no going down this path. So yeah.
And I can very much even like relate to that, because coming into college, I was like, I don't know what to do. There were so many voices in my mind and I had to shut those voices out and be like, God, what do you want me to do? Right. And even hearing his voice and saying, do whatever you want and I'll bless it. I'm like, bro, because you mean I could do music and you bless it? Like, bro, like I could literally, he gave me room, but he knew that I would choose the major I chose. So God knew. And so that's just the beauty of it, that he tells us, he gives us the room to choose, but he also knows that we're going to choose what he's been placing around us. And so even going to you, when you were going through that difficult time of like, how am I, like, what should I do? Because things didn't work out in Oklahoma. So how were you able to deal with that? And how can somebody that's struggling with hearing the voice of God and even just obeying the voice of God, how can they silence the noise, and or how can they even go through that difficult season of like knowing, okay, and having that certainty within them and saying, okay, God, I know this is where you're leading me to.
There's many answers to it, because I am a firm believer that everybody's experience is different and no two people have the same experience. But I guess in my experience, for me, in my first year of college, I honestly was unsure of a lot of things. I was unsure of the relationship I was in at the time. I was unsure of all of the things that were going on at the time politically, because I was a 2016 graduate. And if y'all know what 2016 was politically, then you know. So I was exposed to a whole new side of America at that time. I was in a completely new environment. I had never lived outside of the state, so that was new for me too. I was experiencing independence for the first time. All of these factors, and all the while in my mind wondering if I was doing what I was supposed to. And in my heart, I was like, yeah, dude, like, I got it. I'm gonna be a stenographer. I'm gonna be the best stenographer I can be. And I don't care how competitive it is, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna find a way. God's gonna make a way, all that. And, I started looking into, all the financial things I was talking about in Oklahoma, and also how it was going to play out over the years that I was going to have to be in education for my family, and also how difficult the school kind of was sometimes with money. And then even talking to some stenographers, because I'm always a firm believer that you need to talk to the people in the field that you're about to go into and see what the actual experience of it is. Don't just be like, I want to be this, and then go into a blind. That is not a good idea. Don't recommend that. So I always talk to people in the field because I want to know what the actual experience is. I like authenticity. I like to know what I'm getting myself into. So I would go and talk to people who actually did it, and a lot of them that I talked to, man, they would be like, man, I wish I would have went for nursing, like, because there's so many more options. You're not just stuck in one place. If you don't like one area of nursing, you can go to another. It's so there's so much variety. Whereas when you're a sonographer, you're lucky if you even get a job at a nurse, like out of school. And I was like,
and I'm gonna head up real quick.
I was like, the first few times I heard that, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep going for it. It's fine. And I was like, whatever. And I wouldn't let it discourage me, but I kept hearing it more. And then the whole financial thing kept coming up to me. And then seeing that since my parents, they were VA, we had our school paid for, but the benefits had a limit, and so that was running out. And then I was gonna have to have a job and be in school. And the thing about the school I went to in Oklahoma was, for some reason, them people wrote all their textbooks, they wrote all their tests personally, they basically designed the whole class themselves. So it's like you have to really like know the material like the back of your hand. It was just a lot. So trying to keep up with that, and then work, and then make sure I'm excelling in every area of my life was becoming pretty overwhelming. And so me saying that is not really to discourage anyone that's on the path to become a stenographer to like stop or anything, because if you feel like God has called you to be a stenographer, by all means go for it. I'm just saying, in my personal experience, I kept being met with a bunch of things that said no, essentially. And even in what you said, where God is like, I'll bless you whatever path you take, God would have blessed me if I had chosen to go through with being a stenographer, and I fully believe he would have provided me with a job completely. But I also believe that I would not have like accomplished the entirety of what he wanted me to in the medical field had I gone that route. Versus nursing, I feel like in that area he had something very specific for me that he wanted me to go for, and that by me choosing to be obedient, come back to my hometown and pursue that degree, that I'm going to fulfill the entirety of what he purposed for me to accomplish in the medical field through nursing. And so I am a firm believer that I know you're hearing God's voice whenever, one, you acknowledge that he is consistently telling you no in a certain area, and you listen to that no, or you know, because sometimes God will be saying no and you keep trying and it continues to be no, and then people like will build a wall up against God and be like, he's just against me, when really he's trying to help you. And then there's the other people who just don't want to do what God has called them to at all. And for me, I kind of avoided nursing for that reason, because I felt like, you know, it's what everyone's telling me to do, but that's not what I originally wanted to do, so I want to do what I want to do, you know? And then come to find out that it is actually something that I want to do. And I found passion and love in it, and I was like, dang, man, like I wasted so much time. So it's like, really finding your purpose is in letting God guide you to it. It's not something that you specifically go out looking and seeking for. It's something that finds you, and God will point you in the direction like he pointed me through opening or closing certain doors. And so in knowing that I didn't hear an audible voice that was like, oh, become a nurse, I had hints throughout my life pointing me in that direction, and whether or not I was paying attention showed through my actions, as it does for most people. So it's like, God will speak. He won't always speak the way you want him to, but he does speak. And sometimes the speaking will get a lot louder and a lot more in your face financially, through relationships, through many areas of your life. And you're just like, why are things getting so hard? And it's not to say that sometimes when things are getting hard and you're actually in purpose, that you need to question things and be like, well, am I actually in purpose? No, because I many times questioned if I was meant to be a nurse, especially last semester. I was ready to quit, ready to drop out. She knows. And my sister, but they encouraged me to finish. And I was like, you know what, if I fail this semester, I'm done. And by God's grace, I did not, which was shocking to me, considering how devastatingly hard it was. So even in that, it was like I was not told a no, even when there was many things pointing to a reason why I should have gotten a no, and should have just stopped and given up. But even in me not having faith in myself, God kept the faith for me and brought me through and opened up a door that I was sure was about to be shut in my face. So that's how I'm just like, there's no way that this isn't the place I'm meant to be, because God just keeps opening up doors for me even when I want to give up. It's crazy. So this story, my nursing journey, is definitely one I hold close to my heart, because I see God in it completely, and I am sure that I'm being obedient in following and pursuing this degree and entering this field, because he hasn't told me no yet. So yeah.
And so so you said he opened so many opportunities. So even picking back off of that, like, so what are some benefits and why is it important? Like what is the importance of obeying the voice of God?
Whenever God is trying to bring you into purpose, as you said, he'll give you the choice to accept where he's trying to take you or not. But if you so choose, not to go in the direction he's trying to take you, and you go your own path, you're more than welcome to go that way, and he'll bless you on it. But I truly believe that sometimes for certain people, maybe for all people, I don't know, that he wants you to go a certain way because I think it is for all people personally. He's destined you to go down a specific path because he has something very, very important concerning your life in store in going down that path. So obedience is choosing to see things from God's point of view and why he's trying to guide you down a certain path, and being willing to look in that direction and even entertain it for a second to be like, okay, why are you pushing me so hard to go this way, even though I keep resisting you? Like, what is it about this that you want me to look at and be a part of so bad? Because even for me, I would dance around the idea of being a nurse for the sake of me wanting to have my own path, have my own decisions. But all the while I was being pointed in this direction and I wouldn't look down the road. And it's like, I had to sit myself down and be like, okay, why won't I look? And once I finally did, boom, the passion ignited. And it was like, you have to be willing to look at why God is calling you a certain direction. Because your obedience in choosing to say yes to that path can set you apart greatly for whatever it is that God has you to do. And so I'm a firm believer that, you can say yes to whatever you like in life, to whatever path, but some paths are a lot more blessed than others. And they are taking you to a specific place for his kingdom versus another path, but you'll still be blessed on both. But one is definitely taking you to all the things God has chosen to be fulfilled in your life. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to fulfill things if you take a different path for his kingdom. It just means that sometimes there's a greater thing here that you can accomplish versus on this path. You can still accomplish on both. But when you follow his path, it's like you are fulfilling the entirety of everything he had pictured consider your life versus just a portion of it. So for instance, if I was to go with sonography, I would be limited in my knowledge concerning the medical field. And if I wanted to address an issue like how Black women have been affected by birth and their death rates and stuff, as a sonographer, not really that likely to be listened to. As a nurse in women's health who has been in that area and worked with moms and babies up and close and personal, more than likely to be listened to, more than likely to be a voice and an advocate for my Black brothers and sisters in my community, So it's like there's a difference. It doesn't mean that you can't accomplish what you're going for, but one has more limits than the other. So
that's really, really good. Oh my gosh, we could go into so much detail, but I think even all of that information that you've even provided us showed like how obeying the voice of God and just listening and paying attention to when he's talking and when he's not talking is very critical, because it leads you down to the right path. It leads you down to the path that is even more fulfilling, because God's plan is always, it just seems, it's like, it's more fulfilling, and it's just like we don't know the entirety of it. But once we get there, it's like hindsight becomes 2020, and everything is just better. Everything, you're like, oh my gosh, wow, like I should have listened like 10 years ago, because my life would have been so much easier.
Like, you wasted so much time for what? For what?
And so that's the importance, even just through your story, that's just the importance of like listening and hearing and obeying and just listening to the voice of God. And so what is like a last advice or like last thoughts on how people can listen to the voice of God, or how they can discern the voice of God, and why is it important, or just any advice that you would give people regarding just obeying the voice of God?
Yeah, so I would say, because whenever people think of hearing the voice of God, they sometimes tend to limit him to like a specific avenue of how they want to hear him. So for me personally, I know I'll hear from him a lot in dreams or just in thoughts sometimes, but I truly believe that, or especially through people for me, but I'm a firm believer that there's no one way that God communicates to you. Maybe for some people, sure. Like I said, I don't believe any two people's experiences is the same, but don't just limit him to one avenue, because he speaks through so many, and you have to be open and willing to see how he's speaking to you and discern from yourself if it's something you're trying to say and like making to God and be like, yeah, this is God, and like forcing it, versus him himself actually saying it. Because I know a lot of people will do that too, where it's like, yeah, and God told me to do this, and God told me to do that, and I had a dream about it, and I did this, and I was like, you know, like sometimes people will try to force a thing just to find out that God starts doing that thing where he's like, no, and we continuously ignore it, like his no's, and him closing doors, or him putting feelings in us, and we're like, no, it's fine, and then we get like 5 or 10 years down the road, and we're like, why didn't I listen to those feelings? Why did I keep pushing for it? And so my advice would be to, 1, not limit him, 2, not to insert your desires and your will in place of his voice, and then 3, really spend time getting to know him, because the one way that you're going to be able to discern between his voice, somebody else's voice, and your own voice is in getting to understand what his voice sounds like, how he speaks, how his character is, all of those things. Because you can't, like, for instance, if I just met Frida and we talked, and then, I left and I met her somewhere else, I may or may not remember what her voice sounds like. But if we've been friends for like 5 years and we're always hanging out and stuff, and she walks into a room, if I hear her voice, I don't even have to turn around before I know Frida's here, because I know her voice. I know what she sounds like. And so it's like automatically, it's like, boom, Frida's here. She's in the room. I know what she sounds like. I know her character, all that. So it's like the more time you spend with somebody, you know them. I would even probably feel her presence when she enters the room. So it's the same thing with God. Like, you just know him better. The more time you spend with him, the closer you two get. So that's definitely one way to make sure you're hearing his voice and discerning that it's actually him speaking. That would be my advice, for sure. But yeah. Thank you so much. That was so good. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for even being here, coming out of your, I know nursing is, your schedule is crazy. So thank you so much for making it and being here. But I would like you to just pray for people that are struggling with hearing the voice of God, and even struggling with obeying his instructions. And so, okay, definitely, I would love to do that. And if you're anyone who's out there who struggles with anything of that sort. I know for me, my struggle was silencing my mind, being still. That was my issue. So I will definitely pray for everyone who has concerns about hearing his voice, in hopes that you too can hear it one day. So yeah. So Father, I just thank you for this time that we got to speak and share you with other people over the internet, and that you are just becoming greater and greater in people's sight through conversations like these, and that you're going to bless the ears who hear this. And I just pray for those people who have a desire, a yearning to hear your voice, and that you will draw them near as they're seeking for you in moments like this. And you yourself said that those who seek you shall find you, Lord. And so I just pray that in their seeking, they truly find you, and that you help cut away the distractions, cut away the noise, cut away all the thoughts that try to arise and try to overcome your voice, Lord, which is so still and so quiet. And I pray that you provide that quietness, that stillness within them, that they can hear clearly when you're speaking, and that they don't have to worry that they're hearing themselves or that they heard wrong, Lord, but that you give full assurance to the people that you speak to, that they are on the path that you've designated them to be on, Lord. And even if they are worried that they're not, that you give them clarity in that area, Jesus, that they don't have to be scared, they don't have to feel like they made a mistake somewhere, but that you give certainty, you give assurance in those areas. And so I just pray for every single person dealing with even insecurity in regards to hearing your voice, that they don't have to be afraid, but they can be confident that they know your voice. You said that your sheep know your voice, Lord. And so I fully believe that everyone hearing us speak right now, you speak through us rather, can hear your voice as you have even allowed us. And so I just pray that you bless them with the ability to hear. You open their ears spiritually, even their eyes spiritually, that they may be able to partake in every single thing that you have to offer them pertaining to their purpose, their life, whatever it is that they are seeking you for and looking to find an answer to, that I know you will be more than willing to provide. So I just bless the people who hear this prayer and ask that their spiritual ears truly be opened. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. Thank you so much, Iesha. Thank you so much for being here and just sharing those gems. I really truly appreciate it, and I know y'all are definitely gonna be blessed. So comment down below if you were blessed.
Alright guys, so thanks for joining and watching my sister Frida's YouTube channel. Please watch all of her other videos. Like, comment, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, all that and everything. And yeah, I pray that y'all are blessed by this YouTube channel.
Bye guys.